Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon and our continued coverage of Massive Darkness 2 and the classes. Today we're going to be taking a look at the other class that comes in the Tinkerer box that we discussed in our last video, and that's the Bards. So the Bards and Tinkerers come along with the Metal Angel, which is a roaming monster. The Bards' whole gimmick is around playing songs and having songs active during your turn, and then they stay active. You know, it's like you play a note and it just kind of lingers in the air during the other heroes' turns as well. So during setup, you're going to want to get the song dashboard here, specific to the Bard. You're going to put the 3 chord tokens on these first 3, above these first 3 columns here, and then the 5 notes stay up here on top. You're also going to want to pull out, and this is a little obnoxious but not super bad, pull out the 3 instruments really. There's 1 at each level, so common, rare, and epic. You're going to want to pull these out and set them aside, because at any time during the game the Bard can trade in as a free action any 2 items and gain the equivalent. So if you trade 2 common items, or at least one common item, you get the loot. 2 rares, you get the drums, and if you get a hold of 2 epics, the angelic flute. These are instruments. There's no keyword on them, but it says in the instructions that these, along with the magical ocarina, which is what you're going to want to be your starting item, are considered instruments, and you have to have an instrument as your weapon in order to make use of the active songs. So you have an instrument in your hand, and you have these chords out here that we're going to talk about in a second, and so whatever song is then playing based on the chords is active throughout your turn, and basically until your next turn, really, I believe. So let's talk about the mechanics that make the Bard work. So you have your song dashboard, or note dashboard. In the beginning of the game, you're just going to place these 3 tokens up here, and this is essentially, think of this like a fretboard on a guitar or any other instruments, and this is where you are placing your 3 fingers when you strum the notes. And these are going to shift throughout the game and just keep kind of rotating around and coming back, and we'll talk about that in a second. To be able to play songs, you need to first get notes onto the board, like so. And to do this, you need to spend 3 mana in order to place a note down. And there can only ever be 1 note in each column. Okay, so it's always going to be spread out like this. It's never going to look like this or anything in between. But other than that, you could have them all in B, or more than likely you're going to want to kind of spread them out, because in order to make use of the Bard, you have to play songs. Well, songs are represented by 3 chords that can be in any order, but if you want to be able to play those 3 chords, you have to have those 3 notes represented here in these 3 columns where the chord markers are. So let's just give an example here. Let's pick this up so you can see it. You start the game with 2 songs, starting songs: Tenacity Ballad and Bolero of Vulnerability. All right, so if you are playing the Tenacity Ballad, that would mean that you have G, B, and E as active notes. We have a G, we have a B, we have an E. See how those 3 all match up right here? That means as long as we leave them there, all heroes on our tile gain or get to attack a strike back on an attack action. Coming down here, if we were to move this down here and we have a G and 2 E's, all heroes on our tile gain ignore the blue die, or 1 blue die, on an attack. Okay, so you can see how, first of all, what's a little interesting to me is that most of your effects only affect people on your tile, whereas in my opinion music should like echo throughout the whole chamber of a dungeon. So thematically, I feel like they kind of missed something there, but maybe they didn't want to make the bard too overpowered of a support character. I don't know. Either way, you will then start gaining your skills, which your level 1 skills are all additional songs. So you're actually going to have 3 songs that you can start with at the beginning of the game. So for example, here is the Swing Groove GCB. Or no, I'm sorry, GGB. I keep looking at that and thinking it's a C. GGB. So you would need like that. And then you could essentially play the Swing Groove, which is giving heroes in your tile an additional like move 1. And they don't take reaction damage if they have to jump away from someone else. So if they have like a ranged weapon and they have to move a tile, they could do that. And the additional levels of Swing 1 still require the same notes, but you're getting to do damage back if they ignore reaction damage. Here, that one's even worse. There's also the Serenade of Calmness. This one essentially is healing heroes, and it's heal 1 hero, so that could be yourself, but again, it's only people in your tile. And this one's actually looking for all of the same. So if you had all these lined up in G, you would say, okay, before I advance my chord tokens, you would choose G as your active note, and you would get to heal 1 hero in your tile by 1. So you could heal 3 different heroes by 1 in this instance. If it was like that, you would get to heal 2 heroes in your tile by 1. So again, it's very restrictive because you have to keep pace with and be in the mix, and you all kind of have to move as a group. That doesn't always work, in my opinion. And as you level up Serenade of Calmness, you're basically allowed to heal, if this was the instance, you'd be able to heal 3 times 3 heroes times 3, and level 5 they can actually regain mana. Or you could go into the Trance Rhythm here, and this is basically just put frost tokens on enemies. And again, you see BBE. So each one of these has a different, at least the Trance Rhythm and the Swing Groove require different notes to be played. Okay, so let's come back to the mechanics of how this board works. At the beginning of your turn, now, things like Serenade of Calmness say at the start of your turn before advancing the chord tokens. More than likely, though, at the beginning of your turn, you're going to push all these over 1. All right, so you're going to be looking at 3 different chords now. But once you have all 5 chords down, you can continue spending 3 mana to move one of your chords up or down. Meaning you can, in the middle of a turn, and this does not cost an action, you could play something that's GGB and then pay 3 mana to move that down and get... So this was GGB was Swing Groove. You'd actually have to... Yeah, GGB is Swing Groove, and then say you wanted to do that would cost a lot of money, but GB, say you spend 6 mana to move that down there. Now you can activate Tenacity Ballad. So you can move the notes and activate different things, but say for example here, if you play Tenacity Ballad, GBE, all right, you've got GBE, you've played Tenacity Ballad, this doesn't do anything for you because, or if you then change the song to do GGB before the enemy phase, all heroes in your tile may move 1, then you're no longer getting this because this is not the active song anymore. So again, you can move them, but it doesn't really behoove you to move the notes a lot. It really just behooves you to move them into whatever position that it equates to the song you want to play. And again, almost all of this is affecting heroes in your space. So let's talk about the two skills that I think are the most useful for helping out the bard, and that's their 2 and 4 skills. So you have instrument proficiency, and this says you may equip instruments to your trinket slot. If you do, they do not grant attack dice. You may be wondering, well, what's the point? Why would I want to equip more instruments? Well, you're going to gain the extra stuff. For example, the magical ocarina has attack heal 1, so you could equip this, and every time you attacked, still gain heal 1, but you're rolling some other dice, some other instruments attack dice. Or you could have inspiring drums here. Action: the next hero attack this round gains +2 automatic hits. So remember, these are set off to the side, and you can gain access to them at any point throughout the game. So you can have 2 instruments going and put whichever one here gets you the best attack dice, and then put the other one here because it gives you a little bit of a bonus. That's it. So it's not super great. It just gives you a little bit extra. But then here, if you choose this proficiency at level 4, you get to add an orange die, which is nice. Always adding dice is nice. All of the instruments are kind of magical items, so as long as it's an instrument, you're going to get that +1. The other one here is the one that is finally targeting enemies at the start of your turn before advancing. Deal 1 wound to 1 enemy in your tile for each different active note. So if you had GBE, GBE, those are 3 different notes. You could hit 3 different enemies for 1 wound each. Remember, an enemy, though, is an entire mob. So unless you have 3 mobs all in your tile, which you're in trouble then, it's not doing much. And then Death Notes 4 is at the start of your turn before advancing. Deal 1 wound to each enemy in your tile for each different active note. This one, again, is much better, because if you can set it up GBE, each enemy in your tile is going to gain 3 wounds. That's the best you could do, though. Death Notes doesn't go any higher than 2. Now, again, they have skill cards that go levels 6 through 10. But yeah, so far the bard character is a little bit of a miss for me. I am not a musician in any sort of the means, so wanting to play a musician doesn't hold a special place in my heart. And I feel like it's a lot easier to manage the consecration tokens than it is to manage your song notes. This is like a more complicated paladin, and still it's only affecting 1 tile, but you can't throw out your song. So again, I feel like there was a miss here with them not going thematically that you can hear a song throughout the entire dungeon no matter where the person is. Anyways, let's just focus on our 3 bards that you can play in the game now. So we have Thalia here. Thalia has Tenacity Ballard, also ignores 1 of the claw marks. So remember over here, Tenacity Ballard ignored 1, kind of the strike back. This one also ignores essentially the special action of the mob. And his shadow, if your active notes are all different, select 1 unacquired song skill. It is considered active until your next turn, which is nice. You could say, ooh, I would really love a Serenading Calmness. I didn't go this route, but some people really need healing, and there you go. Dylan here, which it's interesting, Dylan and Thalia have matching outfits. They're the only 2 people in the game that I can tell who look like they, go together. But did you see that? They've got, it's a little bit different. Like his trim is a little different here, and his trim, but essentially they're both, unless every bard is supposed to wear that green, but you can see Riff does not. So I just thought that was interesting that I guess they did that on purpose, that they made them match. Anyways, Bolero here of Vulnerability. Dylan, when he plays the Bolero of Vulnerability, also ignores purely 1 shield. So not only does Bolero of Vulnerability ignore 1 blue die, It also can then ignore 1 shield. So really, if a mob is rolling 2 blue dice, you're ignoring 1, and if they rolled like double shields on both, you take it all the way down to 1 shield. So that's nice. And then this one is choose for Shadow, G, B, or E. Ignore 1 die for each active note of the chosen type. Again, it's a lot of, ooh, where are my notes coming up and down, and do I have the mana to spend them? And since you're gonna be using mostly instruments, you really want to kind of hold on to the loot because it's going to give you a mana at the beginning of your turn, but you're also going to be spending a lot of mana. So try and find stuff that gives you mana back, basically. Find the other items, like shields or something, I don't know. Also, all of the magical instruments here are two-handed, so you're not going to be hold a shield. Anyways, here is Riff. Riff is from the Darkbringer pack, so the stretch goal box. And when using an instrument to attack in your zone, gain attack +1 orange die. So he is the only bard that can really hold his own in a fight. And that makes sense. He looks pretty scary for a bard. And his shadow is after combat for each different active note, roll 2 black dice, add 1 flame token for each of the special ability symbol rolled. So there's the bards. Again, it is a unique mechanic compared to all the rest, and it's all about using your notes, but then you're only focusing on the 3 chords that you're going to strum at that particular time. I would have loved to have seen a skill that made this cheaper, that made it cheaper to move your notes. That, again, I feel like was also a little bit of a miss, because 3 mana is expensive. You know, most of these guys have pretty decent mana. See, 6, 5, and 6. But still, at most, if you get to level 5, you're gonna have 9 mana, and that's being able to move 3 notes. If you're full up, you're never gonna get back to 9 mana before the end of your next turn. Anyways, so yeah, that is going to do it for our overview of the Bard. If you really enjoy the Bard or have played him and found him to be a fascinating character, I'd really love to hear your take on the Bard, because it's just the Bard class is not meshing with me. But comes in the Tinkerer box, and I really love the Tinkerer, so, you know, maybe that's why they combine them. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more content like this in the future, please consider subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.